In the final days of Marvel Comics' Krakoan line of titles for the X-Men, the mutants are doing everything they can to stop the villainous Dominion character. The Dominion exists outside time and space and recently ascended over the course of Marvel Comics. Xavier was able to entrust the character of Ascani to assemble a team of recently fallen mutants in order to recover special intelligence. My name is Ariko Brannock, and today, let's go ahead and see if our team of dead X-Men are able to stop a rogue version of Moira McTaggart in the final issue of Dead X-Men. But before we get deeper into the video, I want to encourage you to consider subscribing to the channel and hitting the like button over on this video. Everything ends. Prodigy, Dazzler, Frenzy, Cannonball, and Jubilee have all gone farther and have risked more than any X-Men team before. Now, at the end of everything, the final fate of Krakoa rests on these 5 mutants. Will the dead X-Men save the seed of the future or kill it before it can even be planted? Dead X-Men 4 is still written by Steve Foxe, featuring artwork from David Baldeon, Bernard Chang, and Vincenzo Carratù. The colors are illustrated by Frank Martin. We have letters from VC's Cory Petit, designed from J. Bowen and Tom Muller, and the cover for the issue is illustrated over from Lucas Werneck. Really appreciate some of Lucas Werneck's art over on FallofX and Immortal X-Men. So great to see him featured on the cover for Dead X-Men Chapter 4 here. And I want to extend a big thank you over to Adventures in Poor Taste for posting our preview of the final issue of Dead X-Men and focus in on the fascinating artwork of this issue divided among 3 different interior artists here. So Dead X-Men opens fascinatingly with the artist of David Baldeon illustrating some really big and bold facial expressions for our characters. So I was really surprised by the way that Bernard Chang was able to lay out this page with a really unconventional structure. The way that Chang is able to touch on these various moments between Ascani and this rogue version of Moira is able to tap into the characterization beautifully of recent chapters of Rise of the Powers of 10. Author Steve Foxe has talked at length in various interviews about how he's coordinated some of the plot threads for this series along with author Kieran Gillen from Rise of the Powers of 10, and I think you can really see that as Ascani is reflecting on some recent events and the deception that Professor Xavier laid towards her plans with the dead X-Men characters. After this brief moment of respite between Ascani and this rogue version of Moira McTaggart, our team of dead X-Men characters continue their battle with the rogue Moira McTaggart. In Dead X-Men 4, I think one of my absolute favorite interior artists has to be Vincenzo Carratù, and the way that he's able to lay out some of the fight scenes between characters like Dazzler, Jubilee, as well as our rogue version of Moira is just so beautiful to witness here on the page. In addition, I was really struck by some of the additional elements of continuity that author Steve Foxe has been able to implement in Dead X-Men, whether it pertains to the Starjammers, the McCran Crystal, or some of the characters of Orbis Stellaris that have been featured just so prominently across the X-Men's Krakoan line of series. I also really like how Orbis Stellaris is able to interpret the aspect of Dominion outside the context of Enigma or Rise of the Powers of 10 to show you this concept just being utilized in a slightly different way than you've seen it experienced in some previous issues. Also, I really like some of the brief moments with this version of Roberto, and sure would love to see him implemented within the course of our main continuity in the future of Marvel's X-Men titles. When I reflect back on some of the work in Dead X-Men, I think some of my favorite elements of this book are going to be fueled by its connective tissue towards Rise of the Powers of 10. The cliffhanger on Dead X-Men 4 is incredibly emotionally charged, especially if you've read some of the preceding issues, and I love how much time Steve Foxe spends implementing and grounding Dead X-Men within the context of the greater continuity to make, I think, this issue and series as a whole feel like a little bit more than the sum of its parts. So at the end of the day here, I think some of the really complicated emotional undertones carried within DeadXMen really helped propel this issue in particular towards greatness. When this series started, it was so difficult to figure out how exactly it would be implemented towards these late stage Krakoan line of comics, but as we've gotten a little bit later into the runtime, I can see very clearly now how this element of deception from Professor Xavier really helped just fuel the continuity for this book and show just how some of these moments with Professor Xavier have affected not only him, but the rest of Marvel's mutant characters. I'm so interested to watch some of our dead X-Men raise the animosity on Professor Xavier, just like Rasputin did in the previous issue. But I want to know from you, what are some of your thoughts on Dead X-Men Chapter 4 and the series as a whole? Did you find this one as fascinating as I did? Let me know down in the comments below. Thanks so much for coming to check out our review of Dead X-Men, and we'll be back to watch the end of the Krakoan Age over at Marvel Comics. Thanks so much, and I'll see you soon. Bye.